And welcome in to Bird's Eye View. It is a beautiful day. At least it is right now. We still keep hearing that this is going to deteriorate, but until it does, it's a gorgeous afternoon. It's kind of warm, but it got a nice breeze outside, and hopefully Cindy will stay away as much as possible. As promised, special guest on the show this afternoon, Ragin Cajun Athletic Director, Dr. Bryan Maggard. And I'm so glad that your schedule permits the fact that you can come in today. We've talked on the phone a little bit because you've been in Orlando and you've been in Missouri and you've been in other places, but you're actually in town right now. And glad to be in town. I'll bet you are. And glad to have thus far survived my first tropical storm experience. Well, so far. But there are more experiences on the way. I'm sure. Hurricane season lasts a long time. I think we asked you, from a personal standpoint, how things were. And when we talked last week, you had a buyer for the house in Missouri. You had a contract on the house in Lafayette. So everything's good. You're not going to be homeless much longer. Better than that, I won't have two homes. I'm responsible for. That's what I was most concerned about. So it's all working out. It's a lot, to deal with, but there's no doubt Carrie is carrying a lot of that weight, back in Missouri. I have to fly back there actually on Friday. It's when the movers come and load everything up. So I'll be there for that, as well as hauling some stuff off that we won't bring with us, but it's a process, as everybody knows, and this is what is reminding me why I don't like to move. Well, I was about to say, the last time I moved was 10 years ago, and it was like from one subdivision to the next, and I hated it. I can't even imagine moving from Columbia, Missouri to Lafayette, Louisiana. Well, obviously, thousands of people do it daily. I understand that, but it's really an experience that if I do it once every 22 years, I'll be just fine with that. So. Well, I've said that you'll find. I've told everybody when I moved that you'd find my rotting cadaver at such and such an address. I understand, and hopefully that'll be the case because I don't want to do it anymore. You told us last week that you were adding to your staff, and now the official announcement has been made. Nico Yanko. Nico. I'll never be able to do that. I know. I got no chance. I can do... Well, the full name is Nicholas, so just think that. Oh, okay. Nicholas Nico. All right, very good. He comes from the University of Missouri. You worked with him for a half a dozen years while you were up there. And tell us, first of all, what made him so attractive to you. Well, again, having spent 6+ years with Nico, we got to know each other very well. And during my stints of overseeing the external side of the house in Missouri, we worked very close together. He's just a quality individual, first and foremost. Unbelievable values. Really, really high and strong work ethic. Very, very forward-thinking, unbelievable communicator. Just very proactive in everything that he does, and really entrepreneurial in the way he thinks. So, he was a guy that I knew that if I ever had the opportunity to lead a program, I'd absolutely try to recruit him and get him to be a part of it, and just so happened to work out here. But he and his fiancée, Marnie, they'll get married next May. They will absolutely be great assets to the community of Lafayette, our university, and our athletic program. But I could not be more excited to get him to join our already good team. I looked at the story, looked at his bio, and a lot of what he has experience in has to do with development and fundraising. Is that going to be a part of what he does here, or do you have something else planned for him? He'll have oversight of marketing and promotions, ticketing, athletics communications, and corporate sponsorships, and really kind of all revenue generation aspects outside of RCAF. But with that development background, he and a guy like Jim Harris, they'll speak the same language. And so I think he'll just be, another set of eyes, another set of ears on how we can look to always improve our benefit guide and our everything associated with RCAF. But his focus will be, on the external side of the athletic. Yeah, okay. What does that mean? Well, so again, marketing and promotions, athletics communications, which formerly known as sports information. We'll actually roll that title out. I'm giving you, I'm jumping ahead of ourselves here, but we'll roll that official title out on July 1. And so we will rebrand sports information because it's no longer just sports information. Those people, those areas do so much more.
And then obviously he'll be our liaison with Cajun Dome ticketing, and working very close with Matt Casbon and Ticketmaster. And in the world of athletics, development typically would have a strong intersection with ticketing, because with your annual fund, for example, your annual fund director and your ticket manager are going to work very close, because there's so much connection between the benefits, associated with the annual fund membership, associated with parking and ticketing. So, he'll come in and be able to just, I think, bolster that, make sure that, we're capitalizing on all opportunities there. And that'll help Jim Harris, as well, in RCAF, because, again, it's just, there's so much involved with that, and our numbers from a staffing standpoint are low. And so I'm just excited to get Nico here and have him really kind of be that conduit. And but he'll kind of all things external. Just keep in mind, with external affairs, in my mind, I think dealing with the public, dealing with the communities. And, he'll do that. And a lot of those things are associated with revenue generation. But as much as anything, we know we have to do a much better job of marketing and promoting our sport programs. And so he'll be tasked with that.
He has the title of Deputy Athletic Director for External Operations. He is the second person to hold the title of Deputy Athletic Director. Jessica Leger, of course, being the other. Jess, as the senior women's administrator, kind of oversees, and a lot of the women's coaches answer to her. Is Nico going to have that sort of thing as well, where he's going to oversee certain departments, maybe so you don't have to on a day-to-day basis?
The departments, marketing, promotions, athletic, communications, ticketing, yes, for sure, and then really kind of all things corporate sponsorships. And so ultimately, when we do partner with the Multimedia Rights conglomerate, he'll be that liaison as well, or that at least fall under his purview. As far as providing any type of sport oversight right now, I'm not going there. I want him to come here, get settled, get his feet under him.
You mean you're not going to give him everything all at once?
Not at once. That would not be a good move on my part. But he'll have plenty to keep his plate full. And then Jessica, as you know, she's in essence our deputy AD for internal operations,
right?
And the SWA. So her plate is more than full, and she does such a fantastic job. An amazing professional.
She's a smart girl.
Oh my goodness.
Seeing how, and I've made no bones about the fact I've known Jessica since she was a young girl. Seeing her develop and her take steps forward in her career, and then I read something today, and Jess was the person I thought of first. I thought of two people. I thought of Jessica, and I thought of Stephanie Lotief. Title IX turns 45 this month.
Is that right?
And I went back, and being a little bit older than you are, I mean, I remember when Title IX was first enacted, and remember that it wasn't until 1983 that the NCAA took over women's sports. It was the AIAW before that. Right. And just to see, look, let's face it, 45 years ago, Jessica Leger didn't get that job. She don't come close to getting that job.
Yes, very possible.
She gets to bake cookies for me.
There you go.
That's about all she does.
Which I understand. Her baking skills
are they're big time. They're big time.
But no, you're exactly right. And, you take people like Stephanie Lotief and Jessica Leger and so many others in our department and throughout the country. I mean, there are females, in my opinion, it's fantastic, for college athletics. I mean, some of the finest administrators I know and coaches. Head coaches, assistant coaches, are females. And, it's just, we're very fortunate to have two quality in those two. And we have so many more, Jay, so many more in our department. But when you speak specifically with Jessica Leger and Stephanie Lotief, I, as leader of the program, feel very blessed to be working with them.
It's interesting. Dan McDonald, and you and I talked about this. Dan McDonald was in yesterday, and he's going to get the Distinguished Service Award for the Louisiana Sports Writers Hall of Fame, which is the highest honor that a member of the media can get. But he remarked when he started as sports information director here, women's basketball was a club sport.
Is that right?
It was not a varsity sport. It was not a scholarship sport when he first got here. And the scary thing is I kind of remember when he first got here. Mm-hmm. So and if that wasn't then most of the other sports weren't either. And he said he and Yvette Girard, who, of course, started the softball program here, said they started at USL on the same day.
Right.
But just to show how far all of this has come, you know, Gary Broadhead was very close, just maybe a couple of baskets and a couple of calls away from being in the NCAA tournament this past year. They're going to be in the preseason NIT this fall.
Correct.
Again, just goes to show you over the years how much all of this has got a long way to go yet.
No question. You know, and I'm glad you said that, because although progress has been made, we do have, you know, ways to go, in my opinion. And we still, from an opportunistic standpoint, women need to make sure that we need to make sure as a society, right, and certainly as an industry in college athletics, that opportunities are being provided, because again, it's just one, it's way, obviously the right way to do anything and everything, but going back, progress has been made, but we need to keep moving forward and keep plugging.
I saw this week, it must have been a tweet. Thank God for social media. But I saw a tweet this week that mentioned that the home run challenge is, to quote John Fogerty, is rounding third and digging for home.
For home, that's exactly right. So right now we have 391 donors, and that's defined as a $100 gift or higher.
Or higher, yeah.
Of the 500 donor goal. And so we have rounded third. We need to get home. And so, again, you know, listeners, if you have not contributed, please consider doing so. You know, we need, let me do 109 more donors, something like that, to complete the home run challenge.
I asked you when the baseball season ended, we talked about the home run challenge, and I said, okay, you were just about to reach second base at the time, and
right.
I said, okay, you want to have this done by the middle of August, but now that baseball season's over with, how you're going to do this, evidently how you're going to do it is working, because you've picked up some more since then.
We have, and, you know, certainly I think Coach Robichaux has been able to focus some efforts on it as well, and obviously, you know, with his influence. And
yeah, it's pretty hard to say no to him.
Pretty hard to say no to him, but, you know, as a reminder, the focus of this challenge was not about the amount of money raised. It's about participation. And we wanted to make sure that we gave anyone and everyone an opportunity to contribute to that unbelievable, second to none in America stadium that we have. And so been very pleased with people stepping up and helping. And again, it doesn't take a lot. It doesn't take a lot. And so we're almost there. And if we can get to home base, we'll open up the fourth $25,000 challenge gift. And you know, that would be very helpful.
It's kind of ironic we're talking about Russo Park, and I communicated with Bill Christ yesterday, and I said, okay, are you done now? Not to be confused with done, right. But done. And he said, well, we still have a few more furnishings to put in, right. And we've still got this to do, which was an addition to the project, and this to do, which was an addition to the project. And he said, I'm heading over there. Do you want to go? And I said, no, not until all of it's done. I want to see it done, the finished product. I'm looking forward to it, but it's imminent. It's like right around the corner.
It is. It really is. And, you know, between some furnishings and some bolts that might need to be tightened, and obviously, you know, we're going to develop in those two, I call them the wings, the outer wings, you know, loge box, outdoor loge box opportunities. Just the little things, you know, that need to be completed and finalized. But again, you've seen it, I've seen it. What an amazing facility! I couldn't be more impressed. You know, I come to you from a Power 5 program, and listen, what we have here in Lafayette, in that baseball stadium, and so many of our other facilities, I could not be more proud.
It is, you know, there are in our league now. You see schools that have put money into their baseball facility. You see more and more schools that have concrete plans to put money into their baseball facilities. All that does is going to make that baseball league better. And, you know, if you can get into that top 6, top 7 year in and year out, that's awfully good baseball, but facilities have got to be a part of that.
They are. You know, that's just the day and age we're in, you know, in college athletics. And so facilities do matter. They really do matter. They're not the most important thing, but, you know, when it comes to recruits, you know, it's obviously the visual can have such a big impact in a first impression. And so that's why we have to make sure not only do we have nice facilities, but we must maintain them at all times. And I'm big about keeping things pristine and neat, because again, you never know who's going to walk across, your sports park, your campus, and those facilities are often the first visual impression people have.
I'm not going to. I realize that Jim is still working to secure some funds to finish paying for that thing. So it's not like okay, let's move on. But okay, let's move on. Mm-hmm. What is your next priority as far as facilities are concerned? Is it improving even more to what's happening at Russo? Is it something else? Where do you stand as far as facility priorities?
Right. For me right now, the things that are in discussion, let's put it that way, and whether you prioritize them 1, 2, or 3, or A, B, and C, it's not as much about that but to me they're all moving parts of this facility puzzle. One is a clubhouse and office space for that baseball stadium. That's just that we have to get that, because that'll just really kind of be the top off, that amazing stadium. We need to figure out what we're going to do with the Cox Building. And certainly, current master planning efforts would show demoing that building, taking it down to the ground, and building up a beautiful plaza area, that would not only, be beneficial for baseball and softball and football game days, but also I think year-round, whether it's concerts, on the plaza, or receptions, parties, et cetera, right? But really tie in, the baseball stadium, the student-athlete performance center, everything really nicely. And then, without question, we got to always be talking about and thinking about addressing our football stadium. That's to me is kind of the crown jewel of all this right now, is the icing on the cake, is addressing the needs of that football stadium, in the form of a new press tower with premium seating, in terms of suites and club level seating, things like that. So there's plenty to do, plenty to think about and discuss. And then I think ultimately, though, maybe stepping back, now that get some of the staffing in place and getting the structure and responsibilities squared away, is I need to sit down and just start, visiting the existing master plan and visiting with the appropriate folks, my boss and others on campus and within the department, and say, okay, is this still the route we want to go, or do we want to veer left or veer right?
I thought it ironic that you brought up the Cox Building, because I've got one listener that about every third week says, by the time football season starts, the Cox Building will be blank. And I know that there is a plan to demolish that. There are some people who are still in that building right now. Baseball is in that building.
Baseball.
Your
marketing,
what used to be called sports information, yes, or what's about to not be called sports information, is in that building.
Facilities and event management.
So you got to find a place for all of those.
So
folks.
In addition to discussing and starting to conceptually think about those three facilities I just spoke of, we are in the process of identifying temporary office space for that building and those of us in the Whittington house. Right now we're too fragmented, and I want to get everybody together. And so
there are worse places to be than the Whittington house, though. That's a nice building.
It's
an old building.
It's an old building. It's served us well. Don't get me wrong, but we need a little bit more of a traditional.
I understand.
Feel.
But if you need to find somebody to operate the wrecking ball for Cox, I got one listener that'll be glad to volunteer. Dr. Bryan Maggard is our guest this afternoon on Bird's Eye View. So many things to cover with him, and when we come back, we'll talk about a few of those, including what he said he touched on a minute ago about duties and overseeing, and one is multimedia rights, and we're going to get into that with him when Bird's Eye View continues after this on ESPN 1420 and ESPN 1420, ESPN1420.com. Dr. Bryan Maggard, Ragin Cajun Athletic Director, is in the studio with us this afternoon. You mentioned multimedia rights, and I've had several people come to me and ask about one thing specifically. You and I have talked about the Sun Belt and other G5 schools and their television agreements with various networks. There's not a hell of a lot of money there anymore for those conferences. And you have said that maybe that perhaps the answer at some point in time is to self-produce a lot of your content for stream on a major network. In order to accomplish that, what are you going to need to do? What are the steps? If that's the route you want to go, what are the steps that you have to go?
Well, first and foremost, we'll have to develop and create a production studio. And right now, we're one of the few programs in the Sun Belt that does not have one yet. So that's definitely on our radar. And we'll, maybe sooner than later, maybe a few of us go out and do a quick tour of just some of the surrounding universities and athletic programs already have one and get a feel. Missouri, when they came into the SEC, we did not have that, and it's something we had to really play catch up with and do. It's an investment. There's no question. I mean, it's can be a few to several $1 million, and then there's always with technology, as you're turning equipment over fairly frequently. You have to staff it, and so it's an operation in itself, but it's something we will need to do, and you'll see us moving in that direction.
Well, I know you're going to move in that direction, and you said you'd like to do it sooner rather than later, but with the money you're talking about, and you're trying to raise money for facilities, and you're trying to raise money to pay for your baseball park, and it
just keeps adding up, doesn't it?
It just keeps adding up, and
it's the cost of doing business these days.
I suppose you could go to Joe and say, Joe, could you write me a check for this? I don't know how well that's going to go over, so I'm going to be interested to see what kind of timetable you're talking about.
Yeah, you and I both, and I don't have a specific timetable right now, but I will tell you now, sooner than later. I mean, we have to have some minimum standards in place to make sure that we can produce. So when we host the Sun Belt baseball tournament next season. We've built that stadium and wired it in a manner that will allow us to produce it at a level that we need. But we may need to invest in some cameras, at that time. But when you start talking about developing content and trying to produce it and distribute it, then you're talking studios and things like that.
Yeah, you're talking about quite an undertaking.
Right. It is
with that.
But you know what? It's necessary today, in my opinion, and our campus leadership understands that, and so. This would not be something that they would be blindsided by any means. So discussions are being had, but I don't have a funding model figured out yet. But to your point, we absolutely will.
How do you like my idea? You just go into Dr. Savoy's office and say, Joe, can I have $6 million?
Yeah, I'm smarter than that. I'm not that smart, but I'm smarter than that. So, but we'll get it figured out, and we'll, we've got great minds on campus. People with media backgrounds and production backgrounds. So we'll get it figured out. But I'm excited to take that endeavor on and move forward with it.
I was curious about this, and this is something that nobody has brought up to me except me, because I was thinking about this during the baseball season. When does the apparel contract with Adidas, when is it up for renewal? When is it up for bids? And what are you thinking?
Right. So, I'm thinking right now, because it's June 21, and the contract ends on June 30. We have a provision.
Oh, okay. So we got 9 days.
Yeah, that's right. So we have a provision in our existing contract to extend, the partnership with Adidas either 1 or 2 more years. And, when I was in Orlando last week or whenever it was, I'm losing track of time, I did have a chance to meet, with Adidas executives, and we had a really, really good conversation. They really want to be partners with us. And I'll tell you what, from a departmental standpoint, we've been very pleased, with them as well. So conversations and dialogue are very positive right now. So I would absolutely, there's no doubt, 1 more year for sure, potentially 2.
I was about to say, it sounds to me like we're going to extend this agreement for a little while. It, all I know is, hey, I like the way some of the stuff looks. Some of the stuff is not as good for me, but that's just a matter of personal preference, I suppose. Of course, my opinion counts more than anybody else's. You're aware of that, right?
I do. So thank you for that insight.
It's quite all right.
So noted.
Besides going around and visiting in the various parishes, and you've got one more left. You said last week, Evangeline Parish, and I'm working on getting that day off because I think
I want you to come with us.
I just might do that. Have you been doing any other getting around and to people in the areas specifically that at some point in time might be a good partner as far as revenue generating is concerned. Are you just letting Jim handle all of that?
Oh, no, no.
Getting involved in that?
And to Jim's credit, he's done a fantastic job since day one of getting me lined up with individuals who are currently supporting our program or who could be potential supporters and partners with us. So no, that's been a big part of what I've been doing since I've been here the past 3 months, and going well. But those are meet and greets, and that's just connecting names and faces, but there's a lot more work to be done there. We know that, and that'll be a big part of my job. That's a part of any athletic director's job. So, but no, that will not be just on the shoulders of a Jim Harris or a Nico Yanko who's coming in. That's me being fully engaged with that.
I chuckle sometimes when I talk to folks, because for some people they think that when you talk about fundraising and fundraising large dollars, it's okay. Well, I went to this place the other day and I met the CEO and I said, "Hey, you want to give us $30 million?" It really kind of doesn't work like that.
Does not work like that at all. And so whether you're going after or with toward an individual or a company or a corporation, no, you don't just
you have to cultivate
say hello, it's about cultivation. It's about stewardship.
Yeah, but they want it right now.
Well, for example, I saw someone had inquired about my tour of Tabasco and Avery Island.
Right.
I wanted to know if I had, talked to them about naming rights. No, I did not, for the record, but had a fantastic tour. John Simmons, one of their executives, spent a
Did he give you like a lot of Tabasco sauce?
You know what? He gave us some very nice, some of the, like a jalapeno jelly. Unbelievable. And then I got a tie from them, but no. More importantly, I got to see their operation and just spend time with John and other their staff members. And I'll tell you what, if folks have not done that, you need to. It is impressive. It's really impressive what they do over there and how they do it. And there's no surprise why they're successful.
I did it, but gosh, it was maybe 20 years ago.
Go
so
again.
maybe
It's time to go again.
Great
setup.
Can I go ahead and ask them for big money this time? Because it'll be the second time I'm there.
Well, yeah. Number 2, go for it. Let me know what they say, would you?
Football season is not far away, and I know that we talked last time about you have a goal for season ticket sales. It is not going to be an easy goal to reach, but you wouldn't have set that goal if you didn't think it was attainable. And now you're bringing in somebody who's going to be working with ticket people, and so that ball is starting to roll. The football program has been in the news recently, and you and I talked about it the day that it came down. Sure. You were in here, and we discussed it a little bit. But much has happened since then. Charges against the 13 football players publicly. The public statement was that they have been reduced to misdemeanors, and I'm just curious if you can comment on where we stand with that right now.
Well, absolutely. So I think, as everyone's aware, they were charged with misdemeanor criminal mischief. And so that's obviously, for them as young men, that's really important and very good news. I mean, you don't want to ever be charged with a felony.
Right.
And that can stick with you for life. And so, from a judicial standpoint, things have been resolved. And, those young men went through that experience. They paid that price, so to speak. And I hope that it's going to be a very learning and opportunistic experience for them. And so, with that said, we did allow them. So they are now participating in summer workouts, doing a fantastic job, working very hard. And some of them, if not all, are in summer school, because to continue your education is as important as anything that they do. And so, moving forward with that direction, that's where we're at today. And certainly, any other disciplinary action from the university or the athletic department will be handled internally.
Sure.
Right. And so we'll make our decisions from a disciplinary action standpoint here, very soon. We're having
is that done on an individual basis?
Just kind of depends. It can be, and but again, as these young men know, there's consequences, and to some degree, Jay, they've suffered some consequences, right?
Sure.
They've experienced some consequences, and but they know as well as anybody that we can always choose our actions, but you can't necessarily choose the consequences of the actions we choose, right? And so that's kind of in the phase they're in now. But again, to their credit, they've gone through that judicial process, and I'm quite confident eyes have been opened. But as an athletic department, as a university, as disciplinary actions move forward, that'll be handled internally. But for me, it's I'm going to use the phrase eye-opening, but I don't really mean that, because I've been in the industry long enough to know that in today's day and age, we have to do even a better job, as administrators, as coaches, as leaders, in building leadership and citizenship skills within our student-athlete population and our staff and our coaches. So, no one is excluded from that. For me, it's going to be really important that we, moving forward, that we weave into the fiber of who we are, workshops and classes to continue to educate at a high level, both our student-athletes, our coaches, our staffs, on a variety of areas, core values, making sure that we understand who we are, what we stand for. Healthy relationships, today that's as important as anything for young people, and making sure that we're, educating them consistently on that. Accountability, citizenship, making sure that we understand, what is expected of you as a student first at the University of Louisiana. Codes of conduct, state laws, campus laws, city laws, rules, regulations, things like that.
Bryan's laws?
Bryan's laws, absolutely. Okay. Coaches' laws, because they all, trust me, they all have them. Respect for others. It's important that we do that. And I will tell you this, our football staff, they spent a lot of time this spring, I know, at least on a weekly basis, talking to the football team in particular, about those types of topics and things like that. But this is something we need to do more globally, from a departmental standpoint. So all of our sport programs, all of our student athletes, our staff, our coaches. But for me, it's just really important that as we move forward, we will be developing educational opportunities, and the delivery system will be workshops or classes, but we'll get that figured out. But we have to make sure, that we are consistently and effectively educating our student athletes, but also incorporating staff and coaches in that too. Because one, starting with me, we can all learn and we can all get better, and that's what we're going to have to do. Because I'll say this, and I've said this to people before, it is absolutely a privilege, not a right, to represent the University of Louisiana as a student athlete or as a staff member. It's a privilege. It's not a right. And that privilege can absolutely be taken away, right? So, but with that role and responsibility, or with that role comes responsibilities, I should say, and we have to just make sure that we as leaders and as educators are consistently instilling, the values and the things that our young men and young women need to be doing day in and day out. The ultimate message to me, to anyone on our staff, and this starts with me, Jay, is the logo never comes off. It doesn't matter where you are, what you're doing, where you're doing it. The logo never comes off. So that means we must always be mindful of our surroundings, of the behavior that we choose, and not to put ourselves in situations that's going to hurt the university, that's going to hurt the athletic department, that could hurt the sport program that the student athlete's a part of. And so moving forward, again, we will be absolutely addressing that globally as a department. This is not just sports specific, to football. It just happened to, we happen to have, a handful of young men from a particular sport team make some bad choices, but it's going to be a learning opportunity for all of us, and we're going to be committed in making sure that moving forward that we are going to be, again, weaving into the fiber of who we are, citizenship and leadership skills for everybody involved.
It is when you've got 400 student athletes, does that sound about right?
That's about right.
When you've got 400 student athletes
and 100 plus staff members, absolutely,
and that's a lot of people and a lot of accountability. You've got 3 kids.
I do.
Okay. You've also got 400 kids, and plus the staff. Obviously, none of them are going to be perfect all the time, and you'll deal with the thing. But I think it is worth mentioning that when you're talking about that many people, that occasionally something is going to happen. You hope that it doesn't happen on a regular basis. You'd hope that it doesn't happen maybe with one group of student athletes on a consistent basis.
Correct.
But if you're expecting everybody to be perfect all the time, probably not going to happen.
No, and that's not the expectation at all. It's not. People make mistakes every day, young and old alike. So that I make my share of mistakes daily. Don't get me wrong. But what we do have to do is make sure that we are instilling in anyone and everyone affiliated with our athletic department, right? Staff, coaches, student athletes. That again, it's about good citizenship and it's about being leaders. And that's just, if you can't accept that role, you really shouldn't be working in college athletics. I'll tell you that right now, because right or wrong, we live in a fishbowl, and a student athlete can get in trouble, and it's national media, versus maybe a student from campus, and nobody hears about it. And it's not an issue of right or wrong; it's reality. And so we as leaders have to make sure, it starts with me, that we are prioritizing, again, making it known and understood that we have to, again, educate consistently. And it's got to be ingrained in our young men and women. It's got to be ingrained in our staff. This is a fabric, a makeup of who we are. But again, my moniker of the logo never comes off is critically important. And people have to understand that. If you want to be a part of our program, you're going to have to understand that. It's not an easy task. It's not, because, again, you leave a facility, you leave a stadium after a sporting event, and sometimes you think I can go, kind of do what everybody else is doing, so to say, whether that's in public, whether it's social media, and that's not the case.
How difficult is it, are you finding, over the last 4, 5, 6, 8 years, as social media becomes more and more a part of our society? How difficult is it to indoctrinate or maybe to impress upon the student athlete that even social media is different if you're a student athlete?
Well, it's one thing to say it, but you have to make sure that that's a message that's consistent, day in, day out, week in, week out. And so certainly as I talk about programming, from workshops and classes, social media do's and don'ts will be a part of that. Because, again, that's a reflection of us as a department, of a sport team, and of the individual. When one person goes out and, tweets or, takes a Snapchat, and, sends a picture out or something of that nature. And so it is challenging because, again, today's culture, kind of everything's a game, right? And it really doesn't matter, what you send out. I can express my opinion. And, it's not about, violating somebody's right of freedom of speech, but it is about appropriate behavior and who and how you're representing what. And, again, it's about we as staff members and student athletes and coaches, we are representing the University of Louisiana, right? And so, again, I tell people we can we're always going to be given the God-given right to choose our actions. But you got to remember, you'll never, ever be able to choose the consequences associated with your actions. And you got to be prepared for that. So this isn't just about trying to prevent bad behavior. It's really trying to be more proactive and promoting good citizenship and developing strong leaders. So moving forward, that's something that we're going to prioritize. But that's departmental-wide. I want to stress that we have 400-plus student athletes who will benefit from that. I have 100 staff and coaches total who will benefit from this. And the guy you're looking at right now will greatly benefit from it. We can all get better, and that's what we're going to strive to do. It was an unfortunate situation that occurred a month or two ago whenever it happened. Consequences have been implemented. They will be, and we'll move forward, and we'll learn from it. And my hope is that the individuals involved will be much, much better, for it, much smarter. And, maybe a decade or two from now, they can look back and help somebody else who maybe is about to make a poor decision. Not.
When we come back, we're going to play Fill in the Blank with Dr. Bryan Maggard. It's next on ESPN1420 and .com. ESPN1420, ESPN1420.com. Dr. Bryan Maggard, Ragin Cajun Athletic Director, is our guest this afternoon. And as I said, next hour, you'll get you, the listener, will have an opportunity to call in, play Fill in the Blank with me. I've got 20 questions, and 10 of them are about sports, and 10 of them are about food. And we'll do 5 at a time. And I have prepared a special fill-in-the-blank list for Dr. Maggard. This is all food-related. Okay. There are no wrong answers, okay?
Got it.
There are no wrong answers.
So they say.
Here we go. Since moving to Louisiana, the thing I had not previously eaten that I can't get enough of is blank.
Gosh darn it. I mean, the food I can't get enough of is crawfish, but I've had it before.
Well, okay.
Okay,
But how many
crawfish.
How many times do you have crawfish in Missouri?
Not very often.
There you go.
Crawfish.
Now, do you have a special way that you like to eat crawfish? Is it boiled crawfish?
Boiled.
Is it you like boiled crawfish?
Boiled crawfish.
You're a boiled crawfish guy.
Boiled crawfish.
Okay. The one food I've tried, and if I don't eat it again, I'll be okay with it, is blank.
That I have tried?
Yes.
Oh. Down here, nothing.
Well, but it doesn't have to be from down here.
Olives. I've never acquired a taste for olives.
Is that right?
I have. Not. Correct. That is correct.
Green olives, black olives,
doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter.
If it's from the olive family,
if it's
I'm
an
staying
olive,
totally away from it.
Away from olives. See, with me, it's beets. I'm not a beets guy. I'm also not a liver guy, but I understand olives. I know a lot of people don't like olives.
Any liver or just beef liver?
No, liver. If it's liver.
You know what I love? Chicken livers and chicken gizzards. Love those. Anyway.
I'm okay with gizzards.
We digress.
All right, but if there's one thing, Cajun, I haven't tried, and I don't really care to, it's blank. Or will you try anything once?
Dancing.
Oh,
Only
okay.
because I'm a horrific dancer.
Is that right?
Two things I'm not good at, dancing and golf.
Well, you
got to
know,
get better at golf in my industry, though.
You said that you were going to go to Sunbelt Media Days.
Yes.
And you know they're having a Fado-Do.
I was aware of that, which I'm not clearly understanding what that is yet. But
Well,
I'm sure I will.
guess what? There's going to be a Zydeco band there, and
I love the music. Don't get me wrong.
I'm going to see to it that you dance. Okay,
Well,
that is now.
That's when our friendship might end if I find out you're behind that.
My last meal as a condemned man would be blank.
Steak, cooked medium rare.
Medium rare.
Yes.
All right. New York strip, ribeye, filet. What would you like?
Filet.
Okay.
Large.
Not a bad. Yeah, big one.
Big one.
A big old
It's
filet.
the last one. Let's do it.
Yeah, that's right. It's not like you're going to have indigestion and it's going to matter, right? The restaurant I keep going back to is blank.
So many. Gosh. Just off the cuff right now, Judy's in.
Is that right?
Can't stay away from the cheeseburgers. I just can't.
No kidding.
Can't. Part of that beef
Part of that beef thing that you got
thing
going.
I have, but there's again so many great places here.
No, I know.
And I haven't tried them all yet, but
Well, no, dude, I've been here like a long time and
I
I
know.
haven't tried them all yet.
But yeah,
But you could do worse than to say that.
understood.
You know why I asked you that question?
I do not.
Because one of my favorite places, and I haven't had anything from there in months, I went and got a po' boy at Old Time today. And it is one of my favorite things to eat in this city. And I hadn't had one in a while. And I went and I got it, and I did not get the shrimp. I got the ham and Swiss.
Okay.
And came back and devoured it. And when I was putting this together, I said, I got to ask Dr. Maggard that question, because if you asked me that the place I can't get enough of, I probably would answer Old Time Grocery. And you answered Judy's Inn. And like I said, there are no wrong answers here.
That's correct. But Old Time, I've had that. I've experienced that once since I've been here, and I do need to get back. I know that. But we was working through lunch one day, and Jessica Leger and Amanda Henderson, my assistant, volunteered to go get me a bite to eat because I wasn't going to get away. And they come back with, I believe it was like a turkey po' boy or something. And because they thought I'd like to eat healthy. I said, you got the wrong guy. But they had this nice gravy on it, and there were French fries, and it was unbelievable.
There's and it's not like I don't like other po' boys in town too. Took one of my daughters to Pops the other day. It was great.
So that's downtown, correct?
Yes.
Okay, I've heard about that. But as a matter of fact, when Nico was here in town, he was taken there for lunch, and he came back and told me about it. And I said, I haven't even been there.
And I love Chris's and the other po' boy places in town. If you do go to Pops, the Darlene, okay, it's meatballs and stew gravy with lettuce and tomato on it's meatball stew and a po' boy. Thank me later. I'm just saying. Dr. Bryan Maggard, Ragin Cajun Athletic Director, has been our guest